There are places where the walls still whisper, and the shadows never truly leave. Places where the echo of footsteps that shouldn't be there follows you long after you've gone. But what if I told you that one such place exists? Not in the crumbling ruins of a forgotten asylum, but in the heart of a modern city. A house so tainted by unspeakable acts that no one dares enter. This is the story of Javed Iqbal, a name that still sends shivers through the streets of Lahore. A man who left behind more than just victims. He left behind a curse, one that, to this day, bleeds into every corner of the house he called home. Locals say strange sounds come from within, that unseen figures watch from the windows, and unearthly cries pierce the night, as though the house itself is trying to tell us something. Imagine walking down a narrow street in Shad Bagh, Lahore. The sun dips below the horizon, and as twilight descends, a suffocating stillness takes over. The air grows heavy, and your steps seem to echo louder than they should. Amid the ordinary houses, one stands out, cloaked in shadows even at noon, its windows like black eyes, watching. This is Javed Iqbal's villa, where unspeakable things unfolded behind locked doors. Police and reporters who first entered the house after Iqbal's confession described walls stained with something dark. Something that even 1,000 scrubs couldn't wash away. Chains still lay coiled on the floor like sleeping serpents, and photographs of innocent faces stared back from plastic bags, as though begging to be remembered, to be set free. But what unnerved them were the acid vats, still there, silent, yet brimming with the echo of screams long silenced, and those who dared step inside since. They say the house is alive with something malevolent. Doors slam shut on their own, shadows dart across rooms, and whispers float through the air, chilling enough to stop your heart. But who was Javed Iqbal? On the surface, he was a businessman, a man with wealth and influence. But beneath that mask, something far darker festered. Iqbal had grown up privileged but broken, a young boy shaped by cruelty and humiliation. By his own words, his soul cracked after an assault that left him not only bruised but filled with hatred. A hatred that he claimed drove him to avenge the wrongs done to him by making 100 mothers cry. In his villa, he kept meticulous records, documenting every act, every victim, as though daring the world to catch him. And when his mission, as he called it, was done, he wrote letters to the police and newspapers, confessing to it all, taunting them with what they would find inside his house. But here's the chilling part. Some of those letters were said to contain things that never made it to public light, descriptions of visions, of being haunted by the faces of those he had harmed, of hearing their cries in the night. But the most terrifying accounts came after. After Iqbal was taken away, the house did not rest. Neighbors, who once walked by casually, began avoiding the street entirely, especially after dark. They whispered of seeing shadows in the windows, of a figure standing silently on the balcony, watching, though the house was locked and empty. Even braver souls who dared enter spoke of unexplainable chills in the air, like a cold breath on the back of their necks, and voices calling out in the dark. Small, fragile voices that would vanish the moment you tried to listen closer. One journalist who returned to the villa for a follow-up story reportedly never spoke of what he saw inside. After entering the house, he left pale, trembling, and resigned from his job days later, claiming, "Some things should stay buried." What did he see? But the terror didn't end there. After his arrest, Iqbal was locked away in Kot Lakhpat jail, a place that had held some of Pakistan's most dangerous criminals. But even within those fortress-like walls, something unsettling began to unfold. Guards reported that his presence carried a weight, as if the very air around his cell had thickened with something unseen. The inmates in nearby cells spoke of an uneasy silence that would settle over the block whenever he was awake, as if even the prison itself recoiled from him. It didn't take long before strange occurrences began. Some prisoners claimed to hear whispers echoing through the corridors at night, faint voices calling out names that no one dared repeat. Others said they saw a shadow move behind the bars of Iqbal's cell when no one was inside. One guard, who had been tasked with bringing him food, swore that every time he approached, he would feel an unnatural chill crawl down his spine, even in Lahore's brutal summer heat. His hands would tremble as he unlocked the door, and more than once, he felt something unseen watching him from the dark corners of the room. Inmates whispered about cold winds sweeping through their cells, even in the sweltering summer. Some claimed to hear footsteps pacing in Iqbal's empty cell at night, as though he never really left. And then came the day they found him and his accomplice, lifeless, hanging from their bedsheets. But here's where things grow truly eerie. Their bodies bore marks and bruises, as though someone, or something, had been there with them, taking revenge. Prison officials were quick to dismiss the unusual bruises found on Iqbal and his accomplice, calling them self-inflicted, or the result of the hanging itself. But those who saw the bodies up close whispered that the marks looked different, not like the injuries of a man who had taken his own life, but as if hands had grabbed, squeezed, and clawed at them in their final moments. One inmate who had been in a nearby cell claimed he had heard something the night before, a low, guttural sound, almost like a growl, followed by the desperate gasps of someone struggling for air. Others swore they heard muffled screams, but no one dared to call for help. The next morning, Iqbal was found dead. To this day, no clear explanation has ever been given. And prison guards? They say Iqbal's cell is cursed. Any prisoner held there falls sick or begins seeing things, visions of boys, of a man in the corner, eyes burning with hatred. But it's what was found later that is truly chilling. During a routine inspection, long after Iqbal's death, workers discovered a hidden compartment beneath the floor of his cell. Inside, they found a journal, one that had never been submitted into evidence. In it, Iqbal described dreams, no, nightmares, of being visited every night by the souls of those he had harmed. They stand around me, whispering. I see their eyes. They never leave. I thought ending my life would set me free. But they're still here, closer than before. And at the very end of the journal, one last entry. I hear them now, climbing the walls, crawling from the shadows. They say my name, and they are angry. Since then, strange things have kept happening, both in that cell and at the house in Shad Bagh. Some say Javed Iqbal never truly left. His presence, filled with rage and darkness, still lingers, forever bound to the scenes of his horrors. So if you ever find yourself in Lahore, and you happen to pass a shadowy house where the windows seem to watch you, or hear whispers in the wind near Kot Lakpat jail, you might want to keep walking, because sometimes the evil that men do lives on, long after they're gone. What do you think? Could a place hold on to such darkness? Are the whispers of Iqbal's victims just in people's heads, or is something still there? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this chilling story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more terrifying true tales. And remember, some doors are best left unopened.